If we could go ahead and call our meeting to order, please. If we could begin by asking if we could all stand for a moment of silence, and then if we could ask Mr. Show.
Now for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shall we call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Singer Erdley?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Spain? Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
I had the chance to speak with Ms. Tingle Sames earlier, and given the day of the year and the time of the year, she is gainfully employed tonight and could not get an excuse to go off of work. And we understand that. If we could, right at the beginning of tonight's council meeting, before we begin our regular agenda, we've got a special opportunity that Chief Bossy and the police department would like to undertake here in the council chambers before this council meeting. We think it's a very special day for Georgetown, and would ask Chief Bossy and Sergeant Duke to come forward. Chief?
Council, it's my privilege to promote Officer Sarah Duke to Sergeant Sarah Duke. We had our very competitive sergeant's process, and Sarah really excelled in that process. She's a 5-year employee with the city, and I have every bit of faith that she'll do a very good job as a leader and supervisor in the agency. I'll let you introduce your wife, and she's going to pin on her chevrons. So.
My wife, Tori Alloway. Hopefully she won't get too deep on that.
Aww.
And Sarah, here's your. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for what you do for us.
Sergeant Duke, we are delighted to welcome you as the city of Georgetown's first female police sergeant, but another in a long line of outstanding police leadership officers. That we're delighted to welcome you to that. Today at the State of the City address, I used a photograph that I knew was going to get me in trouble, and it was a photograph of our first fire department female captain and our first police department female sergeant. And I told the audience that I would take the risk of angering these two women because I'm so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Returning to your agenda. In your package, you should have 2 sets of minutes. Let's first take the minutes from January the 8th meeting, which were corrected and returned to you tonight.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second?
And a second. If there are no questions about the minutes for January the 8th, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now, if we could undertake the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting of January the 22nd.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. In your packet, each of you should have received a copy of our latest check register. You could indicate if you've received that. Thank you. And now we have public comments in order of which they signed up. We first have Mr. Stephen Price.
Thank you for allowing me to address the council. Mayor Prather, I want to commend your use of the word environmental in a news graphic article some months ago in regard to the Georgetown Mobile Estates on Lyle Road. And at that time, you told the newspaper that our biggest environmental problem originates there. Since then, another huge environmental problem has captured the headlines. And I think if you ask people who live in northern Scott County, along US 25 North, along Double Culvert Road, Luke Road, Rogers Gap Road, that they would disagree with you, Mayor Prather, that our biggest environmental problem is the mobile estates. And they would say that our biggest environmental problem is the landfill. And that's basically what they have said by the dozens in numerous meetings that have occurred in the last year. And I want to suggest to you that both of those problems can be solved simultaneously, not totally, but partly and largely by your consideration, by the consideration of the health department, by consideration of the mobile estates owners in Los Angeles, your consideration of a dry management for home perishable waste that requires no shipment, that requires no treatment in a sewage plant, and requires no landfilling. And unfortunately, landfilling of sewage sludge is probably the cause, or I won't say, I'll say possibly the cause of the odor about which so many complaints have been made in recent months, odor from the landfill. I've provided you information on the techniques, the technology for dry management of home perishable waste. I urge you to review it, re-review it, consider it, compare it with what you can find on your own in the research that you do. Another big environmental problem, I'm glad the police are here, because Policeman Knoll and Policeman Sloan have repeatedly refused to acknowledge the problem, this environmental problem, which violates KRS 22430-165, which violates KRS 189.140, which statutes require that every motor vehicle in the state of Kentucky have working, effective silencing equipment. And I don't want to exaggerate, but I would say that every fifth, maybe every sixth car on the road in Georgetown is operating illegally, making illegal noise emissions under those statutes. The police have repeatedly refused to do anything about it. They say we're busy catching bank robbers, we're busy fighting drug trade, but this noise problem impacts everybody every day. And I urge you to compel the police department to review the statutes and to enforce the statutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Next, under public comment, is an important presentation for the council, and I think an action that the council can take having to do with our Boston neighborhood. So, Mr. Thomas, will you be speaking on behalf of the group?
Yes.
Please come forward.
To the mayor, to the council. My name is Terry Thomas. I'm speaking on behalf of the Boston Historical Committee. What we're a group of people who's come together, and we're trying to make Boston, give it its proper due. We're trying to make it a historical district. We trying to do big things that Boston get its due. But what we come, not back in 1947, there was an official name change in Boston, and what's his, I'm trying to go, R.J. Warning and the courts, they changed the name from Boston to Pearson's Addition. And the reason why they done that, it was for military reasons. Some men getting out of the Army, they was doing that on the Booker T Street. They built some houses, and they was honoring them, and in the process of honoring them, they wanted to honor the pastor of Zion Baptist Church at that time, Reverend Pearson. Our group would like to say that we respect the fact that the community thought enough to even change the name to Pearson Edition. And upon talking to some older people who know just a little bit about what I'm talking about, she told me that, yes, she remembered Pearson's Edition, but it didn't last too long. But what we come to do is get a resolution from the city, if that's the proper word to use. If we could get it officially changed back to Boston Community from Pearson's Edition, so we trying to get grants and we trying to do other things in the community, and we don't want nothing to hamper us by name. So we would love to get it officially changed back to Boston.
Just to follow up a little bit with Mr. Thomas's comments. I'm born and raised in Georgetown, but I was unfamiliar with
what I was
Pearson's Edition.
Oh, I see.
And,
That's what I'm saying. I've always thought it was Boston, nothing else.
Never knew.
I haven't talked to anybody that's heard that. Apparently, they, in their research, they've uncovered this legal step
Okay.
that was taken back in 42. That changed the
47.
name of at least a portion of Boston
Okay.
from Boston Annex to Pearson's Edition.
Okay.
I think the community is interested in having the neighborhood and the community known as Boston, as it historically has been. This council does not have the legal ability to make this formal.
Right.
That would take a complex legal process that they may want to go through. But we have prepared is a resolution of the council, having the council state their understanding that this is known as the Boston neighborhood. And it would at least give this group a document to work with. I can't imagine any pushback against
wouldn't
this,
think so.
since in our lifetimes, we've never known anything but the Boston neighborhood. Is that pretty much right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So I think we're ready to read the resolution and council to consider this.
A resolution of the City of Georgetown recognizing the neighborhood officially named Pearson's Addition by its commonly used name of Boston. Whereas in July 1947, the neighborhood commonly known as Boston was officially renamed from Boston Annex to Pearson's Addition. By way of a document filed in the county clerk's office by the then owners of the lots comprising the subdivision, and whereas the residents of the subdivision and their predecessors have for many decades fondly and proudly referred to the neighborhood as Boston. And whereas the members of the community, as evidenced by the petition they have presented, seek for the Georgetown City Council to formally recognize the subdivision by the name of Boston. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Georgetown that the Georgetown City Council does hereby officially recognize the neighborhood described in Deed Book 73, pages 148 and 149 in the Scott County Clerk's Office as Pearson's Addition, by its historically common name of Boston and does encourage all those parties heretofore and hereinafter interested to do the same. This resolution was approved by the vote of the City Council, City of Georgetown, on the 12th day of February 2018.
Mayor, you need a motion for that?
Yes, sir.
I'll be proud to make it.
I'll
Me
second.
too.
This becomes real timely because we've been working with not only the Boston neighborhood, but some other neighborhoods on some historic signs where within our broader community, we can identify historic neighborhoods. So this becomes important in regard to that.
Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Thomas, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And after we get through with all the signing of this and the attesting, we'll be glad to provide you a copy of that resolution.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Mr. Dwayne Ellison. I wonder what Dwayne's got on his mind.
I have no idea, Mayor, but I had something to
Something on
do
his
with
shirt.
walking,
Time to
running,
get
or
your
something.
running shoes out. Just come for two favors today. One is to get the okay for our date this year, and it's going to be September 1st, which is Labor Day this year. So we've checked with Georgetown College and tourism group. So just wanted to make sure it was okay with you guys, and we'll get the insurance out on the date and everything when we get that date approved.
Is there a motion for approval of September 1st, 2018?
I'll make a motion.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is getting easier.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The other thing I was hoping to do, you guys have been so supportive. I was hoping to get a picture with all you guys for our Facebook page. We have over 2,500 followers, and you guys have been so supportive over the last 5 years. I thought it'd be great to give you guys some kudos to all those people in the community.
Your
If
call,
that's
Mayor.
okay.
Should be. Good.
We're always willing to.
Wait, you see Tom turn away from my camera. Come on. Right, Tom?
Tom didn't even hear that.
I guess we do.
We'll go down here. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I gotta stand in the back.
Why?
Too much of me. I'll stand behind.
Think of it as a chain of ribbon cutting, come on, like, love each other. Well, we really do, honestly. Kind of turn an angle, oh, there you go.
Oh, look at me.
Look at that. All right, look up here, everybody. Smile. One more,
Hold on, we'll do one like this.
okay? Everybody like that?
What is that?
I don't know. It is the Bentley gang sign, right? Gang sign, that's pretty good. Carry that to Jimmy, get on the wall somewhere, we know what it is.
You did do a wing.
We go outside, our cars painted like this, we'll call the chief.
Exactly.
Come be arresting us if
Look
you
at
see us
him.
doing this.
Look at him.
That's right. You're welcome. Thank you.
It's cute.
More paint on today.
Slow down.
Dear Will, just a couple of more mayor comments. There's there will be, I believe, on February the 24th, which is a Saturday, I believe there will be a ceremony to unveil one or more of these neighborhood signs in Boston. And you
That is
should be receiving an invitation,
Okay.
3 o'clock
3 o'clock,
on the 24th.
3 o'clock on the 24th. So if you'd like to put that on your calendar.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll begin that process. Also, just to follow up with you on the city's process of becoming a certified city of ethics through the Kentucky League of Cities. Our ordinance has been submitted and been approved. Our application has been processed. What is remaining for us to receive that certification is a significant number of training hours. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours session for every elected official in town.
Oh, wow.
So we would have to have we obviously it'd be too long to do as a part of a regular council meeting. We need to do a special meeting on a Saturday or something where we could invest that 2 hours, get that training, and then be able to move forward with it. That's probably the next outstanding step. It's not just a designation and you get a sign to hang up somewhere in town. This is a serious certification. So if it's the council's wishes to go ahead and follow through with that, KLC has to provide the training. We could talk with them about potential dates and just get with you all to see how we get everybody covered. But it would require all council members, clerk, mayor, and the ethics board. All have to go through this training as part of the process. So just give you that as a form of an update, and then we'll get a date picked for that. Also, under mayor's comments, item 6A is to present the council with the budget schedule, which is a requirement of the mayor's office. And you've been provided with that schedule. We do anticipate going through the revenue forecasting project again. Participation is voluntary, but I can tell you that Stacy and I have found your estimates very valuable to us when we're sitting down making close judgment calls on where to peg a revenue line item at. We frequently go back and look at your all's estimates and consider those. You'll see we've got a couple of finance committee meetings in there. In fact, one early morning finance committee meeting. The reason that we have a to-be-determined special meeting is simply because that particular council meeting, the second council meeting in May, when we would traditionally have first reading of the ordinance under this schedule, falls on holiday. So we won't have a council meeting that night. It's not our schedule that requires a called meeting. It's the holiday schedule that puts us into a called meeting. And then if our schedule holds true, we would have second reading and passage of the ordinance by June the 11th, well before the end of our fiscal year. Good. So this notice will give to the press. It notices when the finance committee meetings will be held and where they'll be held. So your budget schedule is now presented. Moving into city attorney portion of the agenda. Item 7A is second reading of the zone change at 110 East Showalter Drive. This would be the old Kentucky heat treating plant.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property containing 3.014 acres located at 110 East Showalter Drive in Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky from I-1 to B2. Summary, MNC official Georgetown, Scott County zoning map to change it to show a change in the zoning classification for certain real property consisting of a total of 3.014 acres located at 110 East Showalter Road in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky from I-1 to B2. Provides for severability, repeal of inconsistent ordinances, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time January 8th, 2018. Publicly read the second time February 12th, 2018.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Shirley with the second. If there are no questions, we will call the roll.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer Erdley,
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B on your agenda is a first reading of a zone change, the crossings at Windermere. And Andrew, will the representatives of Windermere be making a brief presentation?
Nick Pregliasco, Barnwell, Talbot, and Roberts, here on behalf of the applicant as well. We have the presentation that we had shown at the Planning Commission, which I can go through as well to kind of explain the proposal and what's being requested here in addition. Oh, sure. This is a requested zone change from B2 to R3. It's part of the Windermere Apartments project. It's on Paris Pike. Got some images I'll show you in a second. But it's just east of 75 there on the south side of Paris Pike. And it is essentially the third phase of the apartment project. Windermere Phase 1 was approved in 2001. Then there was 2006 was the second phase. Those have been fully developed and leased up. And this is a request for the third phase of that development. And with me, you have Brad Boaz here as well, who's with CMW, who can also answer technical questions as they arise. Oh, no problem.
And this will be the first unveiling of both monitors working, so each side of the council.
Maybe, Mayor.
Maybe. We hope that each side of the council bench can see the presentation.
There we go.
Just happen to have in your pocket?
You don't go no home without it, right?
Just happen to have it.
Just a quick slideshow, I guess, right? And again, this is the presentation that was presented at the Planning Commission. I went through the first part, which is just the summary of what is being proposed here. And then this shows the location of the project. It is, again, just right off Side 75, south side of Paris Pike. Is currently zoned B2. The other portions of the site were, which are apartments, are shown here as B2, but they were approved under a conditional use permit at the time. This is just going through a rezoning with the project. With it, there will be two outlots that remain with it, one being a 3,000 square foot restaurant location with a drive-through proposed, as well as a separate, I think, 6,000 square foot retail building. The idea being is to keep the front along Paris Pike commercial as well, but then have behind it what is proposed here as well. This is an aerial image, just shows the the area and where this is located. And I can come back to all of these, in the future. This shows it's proposed. The two buildings right along the front there are the two commercial outlots. If you're looking at this, I guess the one on the left is the proposed restaurant. The other on the right is a proposed retail building, with the other buildings, the 9 buildings behind it, all being the part of the apartment project. This will be a third phase of the Windermere projects. You can see the, I guess, parts of phase 1 and 2 below it. There, it will very much match or be very similar to that and what is proposed there. This will be a standalone project. It is not officially part of that development. As a result, it does have its own clubhouse, which is, I guess, the 2 down and 1 over to the right. You can see where the pool is located next to it as well. But this will have its own pool, its own clubhouse. It will be a standalone portion, but it will also be very closely related and kind of tie in a way to those to the current apartment project. One of the benefits is also will provide us additional means of ingress and egress to the existing Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Windermere. You can kind of see that through the proposed drive that would be added there, which would, again, just help improve both not only the ability for the existing, apartments to access, whether they come in or out, but also when the restaurant is ultimately developed and the retail would also provide a means of for the existing apartments to access. Yeah.
Considering the traffic flow from Georgetown, it almost looks like that could turn into your primary entrance. Is that what you anticipate as well?
Well, I think that the intent is always to have the primary entrance kind of existing as well, but this is just to provide the additional connectivity. It wouldn't, it doesn't benefit this proposal with that, but it would, provide at least that additional ingress or egress.
It just looks like people coming from Georgetown, that'd be the first, kind of the shortest
Where they get
distance.
to.
Mhm.
Right.
So my question then is, it looks like, I see your other main entrance has a landscaping island kind of in the middle of the road there, and then the other two across the street, across Paris Pike, have landscaping islands, but I don't see that in this particular plan. Are you all gonna have a landscaping island?
You're talking about on the entrance from
The new
Paris Pike?
Yeah, the new
Yeah,
entrance.
the one is not planned currently, and I think partially related to the ability to have both a left out and right out, as well as the in there, to have 3 lanes, with the at the entrance itself.
I know, but I guess I'm just kind of asking. I mean, all the other intersections have the landscaping
I can
island.
let Brad. He's the smarter one of the two of us, so he can. He's the one that prepared a lot of this, so he can maybe answer that a little bit more detail as
My
well.
name's Brad Boaz, I'm with C&W Architects in Lexington. And you'll see the other entrances only do have one way out, so, the stacking back into the properties could be an issue. So having the left and the right dedicated, I felt was a better solution. And it obviously doesn't match up with what's there now, but for sight lines and sight triangles, having that landscaping absent on this one and having a left and right turnout, would be a better flow of traffic coming in and out of the property.
So do you anticipate more traffic coming in and out of this entrance than you would the other one?
I would not, because this is not nearly as dense as phases 1 and 2. As you say, it could be used as a shortcut to get into phases 1 and 2, but and again, as Nick said, having this access right here only benefits the phases 1 and 2. It doesn't really benefit this phase at all. But again, for safety access, fire access, having the 2 connections is just a better solution for the entire development as a whole.
Essentially to allow or provide another access.
Yeah. But there would be a way. I mean, you could have the turning going all directions and still have a landscaping entrance if you'd wanted to, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, we just have to widen that access there. Yes.
If you want, I can go through. There's also a part of it, we had a traffic study completed as well, so that may address some questions that or answer some of the questions that were raised as well. We can come back to all these slides, obviously, as we go forward. Again, this is just the same plan, just on a different version. I'm sure you all know where the property is, so I'll go through these fairly quickly, but this is a view of the site from Paris Pike, kind of looking south there. This is a view looking west with the site, I guess, to the left there. And then obviously opposite direction with the site to the right. We always put these in case there's a question specifically as related to the frontage or things of that nature. There was a traffic study that was completed, and this is in the packet, which I can go through any of the details as well with it. But as far as this has all the turning movements, which we can go back for specific questions on those. But at the end, the conclusion was that the traffic generated would be a negligible amount total, and that there would be an additional right turn lane that would be provided. It would be a right turn lane going east on Paris Pike, into the development that would help avoid any kind of stacking as well with that. I can show, go back to the the development plan and show that it would be at the top there, right by the entrance you were just referencing, with an additional right turn lane that would be provided there to address what was shown as the only potential really impact with this off of Paris Pike.
What about the fencing? Will the fencing continue as well? If you want to go, can you scan ahead. Yeah,
So the site is on the right. So you're talking
okay, all right.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Can you go back one, or I'm sorry? Okay. Can you go back one more?
Sure.
That's a beautiful entrance.
That's one that's downhill, right, David?
He's pushing for some trees. We need some trees.
Again, I can, answer your question. There were, there was a parking waiver that was approved as well, but it's really the same waiver that was approved for the first two phases, with this. And then there were some small variances, but some of those related to the fact that the adjoining buildings were built so close to the property line, or even one encroaches over the property line, which we can discuss those if you have any questions as well.
And just let me reinforce Mr. Lusby's questions and give you some context for these type of concerns from the council. We're aware that this body only has the right to either vote up or down on a zone change. So we have great authority, but it is limited in that regard. We don't see these plans again once we zone them.
Right.
Once we're finished with the zoning process, it goes back to planning and zoning for approval of the final development plan. And when there are significant issues about how a development will match up in an existing area, and if it's consistent with the feel of our neighborhoods, we're very sensitive to those things.
Sure.
And we've expressed that in prior council meetings, and the council's expressed their frustration with only being able to vote on a zone change and knowing that some of these details that they care deeply about will be determined after we make our vote. So we ask these kind of questions.
Oh, I completely
And-
understand.
and-
Right.
And they're important to us, even though it's out of sequence for what we can
It is,
control.
I know.
It is on our mind. And we've had some other, as a result of this questioning, we've had some other developers make us assurances at this stage about certain things.
The quality of the product.
Quality of project and things of that nature. So I just wanted to reinforce Mr. Lusby's question in that
Sure.
regard. These are important issues to the council.
No, I appreciate that. And this was something that, as an example, at the planning commission, that was a question and an issue that didn't come up. So we do appreciate even knowing and hearing about that. And
Again, I don't want to elude the question, but, and I would prefer your solution. If we just took the center one and made it a landscape element, I think that would be much more attractive. I do know, however, the district office will want those two turn lanes, so then we would then have to widen that kind of pseudo right of way right there to create that. And I can't speak on behalf of the developer to say, yes, they would. We can obviously take your comments and say they appreciate having that.
How much? How much does it have to be wide?
That's probably a 10 to 12 foot wide island. It's not very wide, but.
Looks doable, maybe.
But,
Possible.
oh, sure. And as you all know, the Georgetown ordinance is heavy on trees, so there will be landscaping.
Oh, yeah.
All through that, so it will be.
We've talked about
Well,
those trees.
It'll be heavily landscaped.
As the mayor just said, this is the only time the council can sort of plant a seed into something that's coming about.
Sure.
Once
Absolutely.
we have no more say-so about it.
So the zone change is not including the two parcels in the front?
that's correct. That's correct. The two outlots, which are the two buildings at the top of this, the one on the left being the restaurant, and the one on the right being retail, those are not included in this zone change. They will remain B2.
The other thing I would say, just my observation, this is the third phase, which means so far things have been a huge success, it sounds like, or we wouldn't be at this stage. You're adding 2 commercial lots and some additional residential, and all of which is probably needed in Georgetown. We just want it to look really nice.
Sure.
And your existing entrance does look nice. And it just, when I look at the plan, and apparently when some of the others see the same thing, that comes into question. And there's a neighborhood right across the road there, and they've got the islands, and they've got the additional landscaping, they've got the white horse plank fence, and, all those kinds of niceties add to our community.
Sure.
And the mayor said it as well as you can say it. You know, we can't sit here and tell you we want certain things, but it is important to us.
Sure. And you do have the power to have binding elements or things added, so that's something, my point is, we can definitely talk to the applicant about that and you know, they're going forward. And part of this, you know, as far as the need, I think what's a little bit different about this is the first two phases were almost all 2-bedroom apartments, and this is going to be a mix of 1, 2, and 3. There are a number of people who work at Georgetown or work at Toyota who live at, you know, this property, and they may have a need for a 3-bedroom apartment. They just don't have them available there. Or the same thing with 1-bedrooms. There are certain people that just don't need a 2-bedroom. So that's why this was, we think, would be very successful, just to provide more diversity of the housing, not just what is already provided at the other 2 phases.
You know, it does look like where the connection takes place and what kind of looks like a, you know, cul-de-sac. I do see an island there. It looks like it will be a new island. And I know this is the first reading. Maybe that's something you all could ask the developer to consider, you know, since
We'd be happy to do so before we come back for the second
Yeah.
reading. Yeah.
Absolutely.
you know, and I can see the fence going all the way across.
He's getting fired up here. Come on in here.
Some kind of nice stone entrance, you know, with your name on it, you know, well lit.
And then we go home. We go home and get fired by the applicant.
Really well lit. We need it lit.
That's right.
Well lit.
Yes.
Is council ready for first reading?
Yeah.
of the
Yes,
ordinance?
sir.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property containing 6.0390 acres located at 3189 Paris Pike in Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky from B2 to R3. Summary, amends the official Georgetown, Scott County zoning map to show a change in the zoning classification for certain real property consisting of a total of 6.0390 acres located at 3189 Paris Pike in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached here to and incorporated by reference herein from B2 Highway Commercial to R3 Residential. Provides for severability, repeal of inconsistent ordinances, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time February 12, 2018.
Thank you. That will constitute first reading, and we would anticipate second reading and a council vote at our first meeting in March.
No,
No,
second meeting.
second meeting in February.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay. Item C on your agenda is a really fascinating topic, a municipal order approving a cable franchise opt-out. And it's interesting in that we now have the opportunity to revoke our participation in the state's multi-channel video excise tax collection system and do this on our own through our franchise agreement at no additional cost to our ratepayers, which is an essential point. And we think that the city can collect approximately $85,000 more a year by doing this as an opt-out.
There you go.
We can go into more detail than that, but those are the big points that we'd like for you to understand. And we think this municipal order will pay dividends for us.
Mayor, I apologize. How would it generate, or how would it create an additional $85,000 for the city?
Let me just give you a quick 5-cent version of what's going on here. So, remember that years and years ago we had a cable franchise. Almost all cities had cable franchise, anywhere from 2 to 5%. And the state came in back in '05, I believe it was, and passed legislation that took all of that out of cities and counties' hands and said, we're going to move it up to centralized collection. We're going to hold you harmless for what you collected, and we promise to give you what you were collecting before. Except that they had a provision in the law that put a cap. So, and that cap, the cap wasn't enough to cover the collections. So there was a shortfall. So cities and counties ended up getting about 15% less than they would have collected had they continued to have their own franchise ordinances. So collectively, the cities and counties, actually it was just the cities sued. And the law was ultimately overturned as unconstitutional because the Constitution guarantees cities the right to have franchises for utilities. So what that means is that we now have the option to fall back on our ordinance, which the last time we passed it, we specifically put language in there that said, knowing that there was pending legislation or pending lawsuit, in the event that the state's collection system is overturned, we reinstitute our 5% fee that we had before.
Right.
So what will happen is we'll regain that 15%
Okay.
that we've lost,
Okay.
essentially. For a lot of cities, it doesn't make sense because of their size, because of their base. But for us, when we're growing and we have quite a good base, we've done the numbers. You know, we leaned on our consultant, Linda Ain, and she's spoken with the folks from Spectrum. She's spoken with the folks at the Revenue Cabinet, and it's clear that it's the right decision.
No, that's good. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, we can read this detailed municipal order, or
Mayor, I'll make a
we can
motion
make a
for
motion.
There you go.
Thank you.
Make a motion.
Motion's been made and seconded that we approve the municipal order.
Probably a no-brainer, isn't it?
It really is.
Somebody did.
Yeah.
Second.
And if there are no further questions about that municipal order, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
By the way, this will take effect 90 days from now. The state asked for a 90-day leeway, if you will.
Item D on item D in your agenda, item 7D, is typically not a requirement for us. This is just a resolution authorizing us bidding for construction of Lanes Run Business Park Expansion Project. But given the size of this project, we thought it appropriate that we ask council permission to go out for bid on it. Obviously, these bids will still come back to you, but we just want to make sure that we do this in a correct sequence. I asked Andrew to put up on the monitor an image of this Phase 2 Business Park expansion. It's the same image that we use today in the State of the City address, but a real significant expansion that will give us an access road all the way from Cynthiana Pike clear across the business park to Cherry Blossom, where it will intersect with Cherry Blossom right at Gate 3 of Toyota. So it really makes that flow much better. It extends a number of the existing cul-de-sacs down to the new crossroad that we'll have, and then creates, you'll notice on the right side of the screen, there's a large area with a cul-de-sac in the middle, and Jack and the Business Park Authority are toying with the idea of that becoming an even more high-end research and high-tech area of the park that may even have just a little bit of it may stand slightly apart from other lots in there. Just things that we're toying with. This will give us the ability in the future, as we acquire more of the property that we have to have, to extend particularly on the left side of the drawing where the road intersects with our new main road. That's where the cul-de-sac, a long cul-de-sac, will drop down and constitute Phase 3 of the business park.
I actually put the other one on there. There we go. The other one on there too. That might help a little with.
That one still confuses me.
Okay, never mind.
I like it. For some reason, I can work with this one better. On the left side, as you go down below our new road, there are significant surface water drainage issues that we'll have to deal with.
Yeah.
We're aware of those, but this is our dream for Phase 2, and we think that if we get these bids out, while the project is out for bid, we intend to complete the work on the interlocal agreements. All of those details have to be settled between the court and the council, and we want ample time for you all to do that. And we'll have those in place before we ask you to approve actual bid amounts. But tonight, we have this resolution asking you for permission to take this project out to bid.
Do you need a motion?
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
make a motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded.
I'm excited.
And if there are no further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. I think the court will be asked to take a similar action at their next meeting, and we can begin to get some real numbers to work from here.
Jack.
Good. Item 8 on your agenda is Lieutenant Whitaker's here. We have a municipal order approving some repairs to our radio antenna. And what we're asking you to do tonight, we've got an issue with, number one, we have to move our antenna because the water company is going to paint the water tower. So we have to put it on a slightly different place on the tower. And the other thing is we're continuing to put Band-Aids on this existing system, trying to get us through to when we get our new system constructed. So we've worked with our consultants. We've gotten these estimates. It's not inexpensive. It's $44,590 for these repairs. I've also had to work closely with Andrew and Stacy to make sure that we follow correct procurement code, because this essentially becomes the equivalent of a single source vendor that's already working for us, and someone who already has a contract with us. So this is simply additional work under that existing contract. So we were careful about the procurement stuff. Jason, I pretty much explained it. Anything else that needs to be added, or is that about where we are? We need a $44,000 Band-Aid.
Yes, sir. Mayor, do we have in his budget, or we just had pulled out? It's a good question to have, right there.
We can find it within either the 911 budget or the police budget.
Well, I figured it was.
And if that requires a budget amendment, because we can move within a department but not between departments, then Stacy and I will make note of that and bring it back to you with the budget amendment.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Second. Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Item 9 on your agenda, and I'm going to thumb back to these documents because I want to have reference to them. Thank you. This is a municipal order approving change orders for the Lemons Mill Road widening project that have already occurred.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. But I want to bring this to your attention and go through each of the change orders and ask for your approval significantly after the fact. Each of these change orders has to do with the Lemons Mill Road widening project, which was happening kind of in a hurry. With cold weather bearing down on us and the blacktop plants closing. The nature of the change orders are very straightforward and clearly required. There are change orders that we would have approved through a correct mechanism had you had an opportunity to approve them in a correct mechanism. Now, there are 4 change orders. The first one, change order 1, and again, you have these copies in your packet, shows that they had to remove and reinstall 2 42-inch head walls. Apparently, the engineer bid requirements had indicated 1. Then the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet had made requested changes to include some of the electric and junction box. All of those were Kentucky Transportation Cabinet changes to the plans. They totaled $14,265. That is one that should have come to the City Council. It exceeds our $10,000 limit. The second one is the fact that our contractor obtained their set of bid documents directly from our website, and because of that, they never received from Lynn Imaging an addendum 1 to our plans, which was a $4,500 change order, where we are authorized to do that one. The third change order you'll see is to replace 42-inch head walls that broke upon removal. When they get to the found conditions, they found head walls that appeared to be cast in place and were unable to be removed without damage. So they had to replace 2 head walls that they found in a condition to where they couldn't move them. And then the last one is much higher, $29,000, which required additional gravel base to complete the project. Where the road got widened, I think the engineers had concern about the stability of the edge of the road. And as you read through this change order, it's all about providing additional gravel depth on those edges of the highway. The total amount of these change orders, all 4 of them, is $54,486.72. For context, I want to make sure council understands that our financial commitment to this project is unchanged.
Right.
It will not increase because of this. Our commitment to this project is $125,000 of municipal aid program money to provide the final surface all the way from the railroad bridge to the bypass. That was our original expectation, and it remains what our expectation is. This project actually came in significantly under budget. We talked about this project when we approved it as a $750,000 project. And we cobbled together funding for $750,000. This whole thing, including the change orders, is going to come in at under $500,000.
It's outstanding.
So we will get the road that we wanted for less money than we planned. Our investment will not change. That does not change the fact that I authorized some change orders that I needed your approval for. So I wanted to give you a full explanation of that and ask for your consideration of this municipal order retroactively approving these change orders.
Once the project's completely done, which they're going to blacktop probably early spring, it's going to look great and be great. It was needed. It was needed terribly, so.
And I believe, Marvin, that each of these change orders are appropriate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It had to do with found conditions or changes at the Transportation Cabinet.
You drive by there every day, seeing them working, and how much gravel they put in there is unreal. I mean, it's truckload after truckload after truckload.
So in the haste of the moment, this was an error.
I'll
You
make
need
a
a motion,
motion.
Mayor?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We also have a municipal order approving vehicle surplus. What will begin to happen now as we've gotten some of our departments new leased vehicles, their old vehicles can now be disposed of. And what we'll do with this particular list of surplus property, we're going to give one cruiser to Stamping Ground. We're going to give a truck to Tourism. The rest we are going to let our enterprise fleet management program dispose of for us. So from now on, as a leased vehicle, as someone gets a new leased vehicle, as this program evolves, then we will bring you back occasionally municipal orders approving vehicle surplus so we can let enterprise fleet management get rid of that vehicle for us, and the cycle will continue. So that way of explanation that you'll begin to see these more frequently each time that we switch out one of these leased vehicles.
That's good. Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
And second, if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item C is kind of fun. A municipal order approving the purchase of 2 Camrys.
Is that for me?
This is for the judge and the mayor.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
me.
Yeah. Ever since the Toyota plant opened,
Judges, Camry.
every time they've done a model change, they've provided the city and
Yeah.
county with a
Yeah.
new Camry. That tradition will not continue beyond this one. This is the last time that,
Y'all be driving them longer.
so we'll put a lot of miles on this one.
I'll make a motion.
We've discussed with Toyota to do that.
Yeah.
And the way we've structured it is the city and the county applied to Toyota for a grant in the amount to make this purchase. Each grant has been approved. We will now go through our enterprise fleet management process to acquire the 2 Camrys. And then we can transfer property between units of government freely.
Yeah.
So we'll give the judge his. So that's what we're doing. We're buying 2 Camrys that are part of a grant from Toyota.
But this is the last year of it, right?
This will be the last time they do it. And our point, Polly, is that this program has been a lot of fun, and it's been nice to talk about. But the reality is, the city and the county each have budgets in excess of $25 million, and if we need a vehicle for the executive of either branch, we can buy one
At a good rate.
at a good rate. But we figured this one last time, we should take advantage of it.
Sure.
This would be a 4 or 5 year Camry this year when it comes out.
That's right. So is there a motion for approval of us buying? We already got a motion?
Yes, sir.
Good. Do we have a second?
Nobody wants a
I'll
second.
second.
All right, we got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have the need for a very brief executive session. But before I do that, just some numbers, Mark, that you have been asking for, that Robert's been getting some data together for us. We've been interested in the Herbies and how many rentals and how many we're using and things of that nature. And the numbers are pretty interesting. Since July 1 of this year, we've had, of this budget year, we've had 120 Herbie rentals, people that signed up for the extra Herbie. We've handed out 200 in new construction. We're averaging, Mark, somewhere in the 50 to 60 a month range on new construction. Also, we have a number of replacements where we just break them, particularly in cold weather. And the other number that I thought was pretty interesting, in total, right now we have about 1,200 of the additional Herbies out there in our community. So it's just interesting information that you all have been asking about, and was glad that we could finally get a handle on some of that for you.
Don't need a computer in closed session.
Let's see, Andrew, we need a closed session. You're going to, Karen's not here. Oh, Connie's got it, okay.
I move to enter executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810C to discuss matters of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dan, I don't think this, I know, I don't think this will take
Dan,
long.
if that chair was on wheels, we'd roll you right out that door.
this meeting was 2.5 hours. And I said, Andrew, I can't do that after state city address.
How we, is this how it goes like that? On top of that, I think?
Yeah.
And then
But you were
this
saying
on
a
top of
thief.
that?
Okay, we're
Let's save this.
Go back into regular session.
Thank you. Motion's been made to return to regular session. Is there a second? Mark, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are back in regular session. Of course, while we were in executive session, we took no action. I think we're at the point in the agenda of council comments. So where shall we begin? Millie, we'll start down here.
I just thought it was a really, really nice chamber lunch, and real proud of you. You did a fantastic job. You made us look good. You know, I mean, you did, and you've accomplished a lot.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that.
Boy,
I do.
this council has accomplished so much. You know, what was difficult today in preparation for that speech is how much I had to take out. We had, I know I talked for a long time, but we took out slides on work-ready community. We took out slides on the one-stop shop down on Clinton Street.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
And our code enforcement
About
effort.
that, yeah.
We took out slides on our MSW solid waste report and all the changes we're making on public works and working toward recycling.
Yeah, I was hoping I'd hear something about that.
We took out, we
It's on the
had
edge of my seat.
we had all these slides, and
There's just so much.
They only give you so
there
much
wasn't
time.
enough time.
Yeah.
We didn't, I didn't even get to touch on the issue of the trailer park and the status of our sewer line. So we covered as much as we could and was still left out a lot of material. But thank you for mentioning that. Polly?
Yep.
Marvin?
Well, I didn't go, I couldn't make it today, and apologize, but what you said a while ago, this council has done so much in the last 4 years under your leadership. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to sit back and look at all the things that you listed today, Mayor, and all the accomplishments over the past few years, really. When
Right.
you look 2015, 16, I know you mentioned those whatever they were, goals or booklets. Yeah,
The
yeah,
reports online.
yeah. I remember the first time you gave us one.
Gonna miss me.
I was like, wow, you know, that's a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So
We're
anyway,
busy.
Big list.
A lot of
it's
check
been,
marks
we've
been
had a
off.
good group, and I know you said that today. Anyway, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Connie?
I just have to just say thank you too. They're, just like what everybody else has said, it's been fun. I actually enjoy coming. I don't like to miss, and I do my best to plan everything around council because it's just fun, and we do get along well. And like you said today, we can agree to disagree, but we're respectful about it, and I like that part of it too. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Chuck?
Well, I think the chamber needs to book you every other month.
Yeah, really.
That's for sales.
Was it sold out, Chuck?
Damn.
It's a massive idea.
I was sitting there listening to you, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but I felt proud that you were our mayor.
All right, let me clap for that one.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I got one other issue.
Uh-oh.
All right, that's all.
Save his phone. It's butter you up. Here comes the slammer.
We butter you up.
And I really don't know what to do about this, but we have an individual who's sent us numerous emails for
Oh,
the
yes,
past months
yes,
that
yes,
has
yes.
gone on the attack.
Yeah.
And I tried to go on his Facebook page and respond and defend us, and he's blocked me and deleted my comments. And he's telling people down around Oster Landing and the trailer park and stuff that what we have done is made their homes and structures all go in the floodplain.
Yeah.
And he's creating a sort of a panic with the people down there. So I'm thinking maybe we need to get an official response from the Department of Water, Planning and
All that
Zoning,
work down there, yeah.
that addresses this, that we can put out and say, look, this is the situation here. I finally got him in a Facebook conversation, a long one, and I got him to agree. He says it in the conversation, anybody's welcome to that copy that if they want it, that he recognizes it's the Kentucky Department of Water's issue and not ours, but yet he's still blaming us, okay? What do you guys want to do about this? I mean, because he's creating a panic out there.
Well, and it's
Not a Facebook.
it's unfortunate because there are, he's got a lot of information that he's not using well. And some of it creates a false impression. I've reported to this council repeatedly that fill was originally requested by the Kentucky Division of Water. And this issue is not under the jurisdiction of the Georgetown City Council. I've responded directly to Mr. Tracy with that information, and you'll notice that my name is absent from the emails that you receive every other day or two. So he's eliminated me from that communication loop as well. Chuck, I'd be glad to ask some of the folks who have actually taken these steps and made these decisions to see if they can either provide us with documentation or an appearance to help us verify that we are conducting the public's business correctly. I think it's being unfairly portrayed today.
Yeah, because I got like a Facebook message from him at 9 o'clock on Saturday night where he copied and just, different posts. And I think, if we just have a good response and, an answer. Because we get so many, emails and I don't.
Yeah, and keep in mind that he has gotten, probably a year ago, very direct responses, very direct answers.
I know.
He simply doesn't want to accept those direct answers and direct responses. And you'll notice on the emails that you receive, there are state officials from about 10 or 15 different states on each of those emails. Of course, our local media is CC'd. I think you can send multiple emails every day, and you can post on Facebook every day, but it does not change the reality of the situation.
He made the claim that fill put all of these other places in jeopardy. It was a safety issue, and put them in the floodplain. And I asked him point, I said, do you have an engineer's report that backs up your claim? And I didn't really get a response. I said, I need to know, do you have a report signed by a licensed engineer who's willing to put his reputation at stake that says this is the case to back up your claim? He does not.
He, not only does he not have that, Chuck, the Division of Water has engineering and hydrology studies that show that it will not impact.
Why they approved the bill.
That's why they approved the fill.
Right.
So
Hear that very last part. What?
the Division of Water has studies that show that this fill will not increase the flooding on this adjacent property.
Decrease it.
So I'm sorry that he refuses to accept an answer. And if we can help that understanding, I'm glad to help the council get that information.
So Holly said he lives in Frankfurt.
That's what it had on his page.
I don't know.
He lives in
That's
Frankfurt.
why I was
That's what it
curious.
had
I was
on
just
his-
wondering if he lived down in that area, but there's not,
No, he lives in Frankfurt.
He lives in
lives in
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt?
That's what's on
Okay.
his page, yeah.
so he's just stirring the pot, is what he's doing.
Well, he's, again, I think he's unhappy, and he's got a lot of information that he is swinging for the fences with it. Good point, Chuck. I think we've all suffered a little bit from that.
I'm embarrassed to say this. I don't even know who we're talking about,
So
so.
aren't you lucky?
Neither do I, so I
Well,
have not
some
got
people
anything.
get it and so others don't, like Chuck and I
get
get
it.
it, Millie doesn't get it.
I got,
you
no,
don't,
I got a phone call.
And, yeah. So,
And then I
some get it,
responded
some
back to his phone
don't.
call. And I listened and I took notes.
Yeah,
The gentleman that owns the landscaping company down behind Arby's.
it's odd.
called
that some of
Tracy.
us get-
He
And then like
owns
90
a
other people get
landscaping
it.
company there.
90 other people all over the US
Yeah,
get it, but.
that's his issue right there.
Yeah.
He's worried too.
Yeah.
But you should have never built water could shut.
Anything else, Mark?
Yes, wonderful job today, and it was, this has been fun. The last 4 years have been very exciting. And I looked all over today when I got there, and I didn't see anybody, so I didn't know where to go, so I apologize for that. I didn't see anybody. I guess it's the old age starting to catch up. I can't see very well. It was nice to hear the positive information on the amount of jobs that have been created just over the past 2 years here in Georgetown, Scott County. That was significant. The investment, there was so much positive information today. We've still got work to do, and we'll keep that in mind and
Hopefully we
keep
just
plowing
keep
ahead and moving forward. But it's been fun and a wonderful job today. Wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
Well, another thing real quick, your staff does a great job for you.
Yeah, I just could stand up there.
Well, I'm just saying, you figure, even the young man beside you does a pretty good job for you, so, but compliments goes all the way to your whole staff also, okay?
Good. Thank you all very much. Anything else come before council? No, we'll stand adjourned.